Hey there, my name's Alex. I am the Silver Mont. And in this video we're going to talk about the recent Monster Hunter Wilds beta. I'll start off by saying, I think giving players a demo or a beta is important, not just so that we can see how the game is, how it runs, but also to give feedback, especially if said feedback is taken on board. So, with that said, let's get right into it, shall we? And we'll break this video into the good, the bad, and the I don't know. So the good. Game has a lot of nice little details and animations, sacred pupils dilating and playing with your palico and the like. All of the combat animations for the hunter and monsters are as good as you would hope for and expect, with the exception of when they bug out and raid out hurdles into space. The core gameplay of Monster Hunter is still there and still good. This is a game with a lot of depth, easy to get into, hard to master. Some of the weapons got new abilities which are nice, such as the gun lance's, I forget what it's called, but basically shotgun diagonal blast. Awesome. Overall, most of the good things from Monster Hunter are still here and still good, but I want to focus more in this video on what I think needs improving, frankly. So the big one, the universal one, has to be performance. If you followed the beta at all, then I'm sure you saw things such as the flat polygon enemies, things refusing to load, the generally suboptimal performance across the board. I don't know what's causing this, but one common theory is that it's CPU limitations, much like Dragon's Dogma 2. The fact that the game developers seem to be relying on things like upscalers and frame gen to reach good frames is not ideal. Frame generation isn't meant to take your game from 30 to 60 FPS, for example. DLSS can provide a nice form of anti-aliasing and resolution scaling, but it shouldn't be necessary for your game. I was fortunate enough that it ran mostly okay on my system, but I also have a decent machine, and that doesn't mean the issues aren't there just because they can be somewhat brute-forced by, especially considering how this game doesn't look all that good. If you consider, say, I don't know, Red Dead Redemption 2, a game from 2018, which on, modern hardware now runs nicely and looks better than a lot of modern games and doesn't have weird stuttering and all these weird problems. So what is it with games getting more and more intensive when they're barely even looking better? But related to this is the new weather system. Probably the biggest gimmick that Wilds has going for it, and probably why this game is so CPU heavy, I don't know. Whilst in a sense it is impressive to watch a desert transform thanks to a sandstorm or lightning storm, it's impressive the first time, and after that it just becomes a chore. It adds virtually nothing to the gameplay, and it actively takes away from the visuals. It's one of those things where it feels like the game developers are like, man, it was so hard to do this, but then you play it and you're like, alright, I don't really care, because it's not adding anything to the gameplay. And this is Monster Hunter, where the gameplay is the important thing. I don't care about the story. I don't care that you made a sandstorm come in real time. It adds virtually nothing to the gameplay, and it actively takes away from the visuals, giving the game a horrid, low contrast, washed out appearance that goes against what Monster Hunter should be. Since the third generation, at least, Monster Hunter has been very vibrant and a colourful series. And even before that, to some extent, it was still colourful. Wilds is noticeably drab a lot of the time. Starting the game in this desert area isn't really doing them favours there. This issue may be less intensive on other maps, but judging from the beta, the weather system adds nothing to the gameplay. I don't need to adjust how I'm playing just because the weather changed. And I imagine this is super performance heavy. I also don't know the DRM situation that's going to be happening in Wilds, but people have said that Capcom's coding had these DRM-like systems that are very unoptimized, performing hundreds of unnecessary checks that can impact performance. Again, I don't know how true any of that is, but any form of DRM is bad to me, even if it doesn't impact performance, just because DRM is anti-consumer. Then we have the mixed aspects, things I'm not quite sure how I feel about. Take the other big gimmick Wilds has. Focus mode. You can aim your attacks and see weak spots on monsters using this. And focus mode allows you to perform new devastating focus attacks to to break these weak points. Or you can keep them active for more damage. It's like a choice. You can keep poking them for more damage, or you can break them to sort of stagger the monsters for one big attack. It adds options to the gameplay without feeling mandatory like the Clutch Claw. Being able to aim like this is quite controversial to some people, as it drastically changes the positioning-based gameplay of Monster Hunter. Something I don't think needed to change, personally. Still, this definitely makes it easier to reposition and aim. Whether or not that's a bad thing is up for you to decide. I don't really mind it, but I don't think we needed it either. It's solving a problem that, well, wasn't really a problem, you know? It's like the lot of updates you get on things like, you know, Chrome, YouTube, Firefox, all these sort of things where they keep updating them because the software programmers feel like they need to be doing something. So we get a lot of updates that are solving non-existent problems, and sometimes they make it worse in the process. They always need to be iterating. You know, oh, we can't have a new Monster Hunter without some new gimmicks, and someone thought of this one. It's like, sure, but we don't need it. And then there's the Lance. I'm a Lance main, and the changes made to it in Wilds are, not sure how I feel about it. I like that we got some kind of insta-block rolled into the main kit. I like that we have a new combo ender, but the Lance feels slower and weaker than in Sunbreak, which was, in my opinion, the best the Lance has ever been. Taking Skyward Thrust out of the Lance's kit is very upsetting, as it was not only useful, but it made for some of the best, I don't know, some of the coolest moments when you get a kill with it. The new counter that comes after a perfect guard is weird. Whilst the cross-slash counter in Sunbreak was a stationary move that allowed you to get great counter hits in, now you spring forward, which feels like they didn't really test it. They just went, oh, just do that. It's like, alright, so you do it, you counter an attack, but then you bounce forwards, which means a lot of the time you're going to miss your counter, because you launched yourself over there. The momentum makes it harder to hit than it needs to be. Same with the focus strike. The uppercut is fine, but the follow-up has you charging forwards and it misses too much. I don't like all that momentum on it. That doesn't need to be there. Whilst I didn't try it in the beta, the Insect Glaive losing its infinite helicopter is stupid to me, because the whole identity of the Insect Glaive, to me, is that it's the aerial weapon. If you neuter that aspect and cut down on it, what's the Insect Glaive got going for it? That, oh, you can shoot out a bug to squirt on it? Who even wants to do that? That's like the most boring part of the Glaive's kit. You only want to do that because it powers up your attack so you could infinitely helicopter, surely. As for the Sword and Shield, technically it's pretty strong right now, I think, but I hate the new mini Helm Splitter attack as it has zero impact to it. You just drag the sword through the monster and then like 5 hits show up, but there's no hit stop, there's no impact to it. It feels weak, even though it is strong. In fact, taking away the hit stop for the majority of its attacks is something that I'm not a fan of, as it does make a lot of the attacks feel less impactful. Finally, the lobby and online experience. So you have a lobby, and in the beta it was public lobbies of like 100 people, which meant message spam was annoying with no way to turn it off. So let's say you want to play with a friend. You invite your friend to your link party, but then they're not necessarily in your lobby. And I apologise if you're hearing someone blowing leaves outside, but there's nothing I can really do about that, unless I banish them from this reality. But yeah, so you invite someone to your link party, which isn't the same as inviting them to the lobby. When they're in your link party, you can do an environment link, which means you can actually see them. It just seems all a little convoluted to me. In conclusion, there's some aspects I feel need adjusting. The performance and the weather, for sure. I'd also like to see some more weapon fine-tuning, as I'm not sure why they seem to hate Lance so much. If every single weapon practically has a counter now, and half of them can block as well, what's the point of Lance exactly? I feel like they hit the perfect spot with it in Sunbreak, and this is a definite step backward for me, even if I like some of the new things they got. As for the story, I can't judge that based really on what we saw in the beta. It's a story, I guess. I don't remember anything really, about the story in any Monster Hunter game because they aren't important. The weird emphasis on it doesn't make sense to me either. I'd rather that time went into making new monsters and stuff instead of random cutscenes full of forgettable characters in a story that frankly I don't think anyone cares about. Wild seems promising, but I really hope they iron out some of the shocking performance, many technical issues, and so on. I'd say they probably need to delay the game unless the beta is not at all indicative of the final release, but I doubt Capcom would do that, any more than this guy could delay his leaf blowing. Far more likely, they will release the game in a kind of shoddy state, try and improve it with patches down the line. I don't like that approach, but what can you do? At any rate, thanks so much for watching, I'll catch you soon. I'll do some more videos on Wilds when it comes out, no doubt.